Hi guys, and welcome to our Boss 505 Loopstation review today. Welcome for those of you who are joining on YouTube. You can find on Spotify if you want to check that out. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Boss 505 looper. I'm going to try and keep it under 10 minutes. We may need to do a part 2 if we don't get enough time to have a jam at the end of this, which I'm probably feeling is going to happen on the next podcast. But just a little bit about this looper. It is designed to record, effects, mix and play back multiple recorded loops. So you can effectively create your own ensemble. It's probably one of the most used loopers in live performance. I've seen it in band setups. I've seen it being used by solo musicians, DJs. I've seen it in electronic music performance, which is mostly how I use mine in sort of electroacoustic performance. They are a great way to combine electronic and acoustic instruments in a performance. But yeah, overall a very, very popular machine. You can probably buy them for somewhere in the range of £300 to £500 in the UK. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for this one, but it was something in that region. They feel quite plasticky, so kind of like a child's toy when I got it. I was like, wow, quite chunky, but I would say pretty durable as a result of that. Most of the brains of the operation is sort of internal anyway, so we're not really too fussed about how it looks on the outside, as long as it works as it should do. And they are really quite easy to use, but also quite complicated if you don't know what you do with it. When I first got it, I did spend a lot of time reading the manuals and testing loads of things out and troubleshooting with it. So if you do get one, it does take a while to get to know, but once you get to know it, it's actually quite straightforward. So I'm going to try and just go over a few of the settings today and how it kind of works. So safety precautions then, when you're setting it up, when you're powering it up, it needs to be powered up correctly and powered down correctly. So for anybody who doesn't know, power up sequence is all your outboard equipment first. So instruments, this would be, turned on first, then any mixers, then any amps or speakers that you've got. When powering down, it's the reverse of that. So it's amps and speakers are off first, then your mixers, and then your outboard equipment, including the looper. Okay, so something else you should know about this as well, just as a safety precaution, is when you are powering down, you do need to physically unplug the power adapter from the wall socket. Reason for that is because the adapter is still holding charge and sending it out to the looper, even when the unit's switched off randomly. So you do need to unplug it from the wall to make sure that it's properly powered down. You don't want to fry it when you're not using it by leaving it sending power to the unit, okay? Input-wise, we've got microphone input, XLR, then we've got two instrument inputs, left and right. We've also got aux input, left and right output. We've got phones output. We've also got an additional output for foot pedals or external control units that you might want to use with this device. We've got MIDI in and out for linking it up with other electronic instruments. So I use this with a couple of synths and a drum machine. One thing to note is I do find it works better if you put it first in the MIDI signal chain. I had loads of trouble with it with MIDI when I was sending clock from a different device. I just found that it was causing phasing issues with the recordings, but that might just be me. You'll have to try it, but I did find that when I was looking at how other people are using these, they did tend to have it first in the MIDI signal path, so maybe it's just works better that way. We've got a USB output as well, so you can hook it up to your computer. You can read and write tracks to your computer memory, and you can also hook it up to a DAW, such as Ableton. Other DAWs are available. We've got power on and off switch at the back as well, and then obviously a power input on the end. Whew! Flying this, absolutely flying this. What else can I talk about for you today? So yeah, quite easy to use once you know how to use the menus. So I'm going to try and get through some of the menus settings with you. There are system settings. There's a system setting button. That is for device settings, so they will stay as they are once you set them. That's things like MIDI settings, display settings, USB settings, some shortcuts, things like that. We've got a memory settings button. Now that is for each individual phrase memory. So a phrase memory is basically your session or your song. You can save up to 99 different ensembles or songs on the device into the internal memory. So it's quite a big internal memory that it's got built in. So today we're using internal memory number 4, so that would be phrase settings for number 4. So if you're using the memory settings, that's what that's for. They are different for every phrase. So if we go to a different internal memory, they just go back to the standard settings and you've got to input them again. We've got effects settings. So there are 2 effects units on the device. You've got input effects, which are recorded to your loop. So if you sing a vocal with reverb on, that will be recorded with reverb on, and you cannot take it off afterwards. You've got track effects unit on the other end, on the right hand side, which is effects that you would apply to your loop once it's been recorded, and you can add and take them off you can change them as many times as you like once the recording is playing back. The big knobs that are next to the effects buttons are to control the amount of effect that you're applying to the channel. So that's pretty straightforward. To enter the settings menu for your effects, you've got buttons A, B and C on the input effects. You've got buttons A, B and C on the output effects. You can choose whichever effect you want to assign to the A, B and C buttons. So there's a big effects memory built into this device. You can pick whichever effect you want on the input or on the output. You can also apply multiple effects at one time on the input and multiple effects at one time on the output. You do that in the settings menus. So to enter the FX settings menu, you just press A, B or C, and that's the effect. That's how you get into those settings menus. You've also got settings for the individual tracks. So there are 5 channels. You can have 5 individual instruments playing. You can also overdub on these tracks. The edit button per channel is how you change the settings for that track. That's how you enter that menu. We've also got rhythm settings. So there's a little rhythm section here. This machine will play drum patterns that you can sing along to, play along to, use for timing, whatever. There's loads of different drum patterns available. To enter the drum rhythm settings menu, you just press the edit button under the rhythm section. So that's how you get into the menus. Now, once you're in the menus, they all work the same. There are left and right arrow buttons that you choose to scroll through what options you've got available. And then the memory or the value knob changes the value of each setting that you're entering. So just to go through how I would set up a phrase memory, I would first of all come to the looper, scroll through from the home page. We'll decide which phrase memory you're saving to. If you want to get back to the home screen, just keep pressing exit. If you ever get stuck on this looper, just keep pressing exit. It'll take you back to the main home screen or the original display. And that'll tell you which phrase memory you are saving to and where it's saving. So it's going to internal memory, and at the moment I'm on phrase memory number 41. You will know if there is something already saved to the phrase memory that you're selecting because it lights up. So I know that this one's being used because it's all lit up. So we'll choose a blank one. We'll go for number 27. So the first thing I would do when setting up a session, if you like, is I would go to the memory settings, choose my different memory settings so I can see that it's playing at 100% volume. You can set the tempo of that particular track. You can set the compression, reverb. You can set the input effects to single or multi. So as I said before, if you have it on single, you can only have either A, B or C playing at one time. If you have it on multi, you can have all 3 of them playing on at any single time. One thing to note though is it will only let you have certain signal flows for the effects, so you might not be able to have delay before reverb. It might make you have reverb before delay, so that's just something to note. I'm going to set this to single on the input and single on the output for now. Track effects. Just various settings that you need to go into there. So this record action is currently set to record and then overdub straight away. When you first get to use this looper, it's probably best to have it record and then just play straight away when you press stop, just for ease. So to save anything, you just press the right button and then it'll ask you where you want to save it to. Phrase memory number 27, press right again and it'll save it to that memory, to that phrase. So the first thing I do is set up my memory settings for the session. The second thing I'll do is set up my effects for the session. So input effects, if I press A, it lights up. I can use the memory or control knob to choose which effect I want on the input. So on input effect number A, I'm going to go for reverb. And then on input effect number B, letter B, sorry, I'm going to go for delay, just for the purpose of demonstration. So a useful thing to note as well, you can actually time reverb and delay up to your track. So there's just some simple equations that you might want to be aware of here. If you're timing reverb to your track, 7,500 divided by the track BPM will give you the ultimate reverb time in milliseconds. So I already know for 120 it's about 62 milliseconds, something like that. For delay, if you want to time the delay up to the track, simple equation, 60,000 divided by the track BPM will give you the delay time in milliseconds. So I know for 120 BPM track, that's going to be about 500 milliseconds. So if we go back to A, and we're on the reverb setting, and we press the arrow button, so you can change the reverb duration. So we're going to set that to 0.6, because that's the closest I can get to 0.62 seconds. Press right and right again, and that will save it to the phrase memory. So that'll save it to your session memory or your song memory. You won't have to set this again after you've set this up. Go on to the next setting for delay, which I've saved to input letter number B. Press it, it lights up, press the arrows, and then you can change the delay time in milliseconds. There's also some other parameters available if you go through the options available using the left and right arrow buttons. So I'm going to set that to 500 milliseconds, and then I know that that is going to time up lovely with a 120 BPM track. To save it, press right again, and it's then saving it to the phrase memory. Same with the output track effects. We're going to go through them, we'll set them up, whatever we want. Vocal distortion, if we want to change the parameters of the vocal distortion, we use the left and right arrow buttons. We can change tone of it, we can change the level of it so it comes in really loud or really quiet, whichever. Same again, scroll through them all. The next thing I'll do is change the track settings. So if I hit edit on one of the tracks, then that will bring up the track settings menu, and it's the same again. Arrows to go through the options to scroll through, and the memory value knob to then make changes. So all dead easy. Set all that up first, and then press right to save it to your phrase memory, and then that is your session set up. You don't need to change that again if you want to keep the settings that you've got then. If you try to go to another phrase memory, all of that's wiped. So then you'd have to set it up again for the next song, because you might want different settings for your different songs, you see. So that's the reason that it works in that respect. So I think that's probably all we've got time for at the minute. I'm just going to quickly have a look at the drums. If we press the edit button next to the drums, you can choose how loud you want the drums to play. You can choose which drum pattern you want. So for example, if I want to go to a quick funk 3, let's go for funk 3 and listen to that. If you press the start stop button, that will demo. Turn the volume up on my mixer, that will demo the drums. Start and stop, dead simple. Edit, and then use the arrow buttons to scroll through the options you've got there to choose your settings. And once you've got them, if you want to keep that drum setting for this phrase memory, press right again, it's going to save it to the phrase memory. So we've now got our drums set up. They're starting and stopping when we press stop. If we want to loop something now, all we do is we press the play button to record, and we press the play button again to stop, and it just starts playing automatically, the loop. So I've got another instrument set up here. I've got my XP80 set up with some bass on it. If we want to record some bass, we just press play to record, press play to stop, and it starts playing straight away. So this is good for live performance. So let's just do a quick example. We'll start the drums, press play to record. Play again, and it starts to play back straight away, and we're off. Press all stop or all start and stop, and it stops everything and starts everything at the same time. So that's it. That's pretty much all we've got time for in this session. I'm really sorry it's been so rushed through like it has, but we will do another part 2 for this, and we'll have a bit of a jam, me and Milky. It should be a bit more fun, that one. But that's it for now. Over and out.